Come in.
Thank you very much for calling.
Hello. How are you? Hello. Did you at last? Yes. Good evening. Good evening. Adolfo Sojinaka? Munaver Rasul. Mr. Munaver Rasul, chair. How are you? Well, very nice. Delighted to be here. Lovely. Very nice. It's very busy around this time of evening. It's very difficult. Good evening. Good evening. Very nice. Very nice to meet you all. At last.
Do I use this great open?
Munaver Rasul, I'm the chair of this institute. I've met you before, not so close to
Hello. Big Tom, Manchester Council.
I don't know this rugby player. How are you? He's buttered chai. Very nice. He's buttered chai. Excellent. Nice to see you.
Hello. Hi, how are you? I'm lost about myself.
Bro, having a return. How are you?
Very well, sir. Very well. Yeah. So it's Manchester there.
Find a seat for you. Yes, please, sir. Very nice. Very nice. Eddy, you're on the top next to Alice is where you can find small. My wife knows that.
मैं समझा थोड़ी तबीयत ठीक नहीं
How is it over? How are you?
Hi, how are you doing? I think if you go across, you'll find somebody from MCCR as well. So, West Coast Police, that's great. Thanks.
Oh, mate, how are you?
I didn't see you here because if you're not here,
I can ask you, when are you going? I want to book
that's me. Opposite train. No, opposite
train. I can't go to Chancellor.
Oh, that one?
Yeah. It's asking your ring there.
Okay, right.
My wife.
Rob the rich and have the poor. Why not rob the rich? On the other side, you don't care. You must have studied yourself.
I agree with
Yeah, man.
नहीं आप रिलैक्स करिए एंजॉय वो तो पीसीए वाले बैठे
I think he's a little far away. Still on the motorway and down, bumper to bumper. He's this one, sir. Can you look at me? I'm parking. How are you? I'm sorry, the high commissioner got stuck up in the motorway long weekend.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to apologize for the late start. Our High Commissioner is still on the motorway somewhere. Apparently, the traffic is very, very dense and very slow on the M6. But we will make a start. In front of you, and we will follow that program. Obviously, the speech and the response by the High Commissioner will be made at a time when he arrives. So we'll start with the recitation from the Holy Quran. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Sadaqallahu al-Azim. The recitation is taken from Surah 103 of the Holy Quran, Al-Asr, title being Time Through the Ages. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, by the token of time through the ages, verily man is in loss except such as have faith and do righteous deeds and join together in the mutual teaching of truth and of patience and constancy. This is the translation according to Abdullah Yusuf Ali. And of course, that brings us to today's theme, which is that we do many things in our lives, but the question is, what we do, will it stand the test of time? As we all know, time searches out and destroys everything material. Even Shakespeare said in Sonnets 12, nothing against time's side can make defense. And again, I quote from Sonnet 64, when I have seen by time's fell hand defaced the rich proud cost of outworn buried age. Whatever good we do, we need to spread it amongst ourselves. And hopefully, that is what we'll talk about this evening. I'll just put up on the screen the program. People on the top table here. Recently been appointed as the Community Welfare Attaché in the Pakistan Consul in Manchester. But he's not only for Manchester, he's for the north of England and also covers Scotland. Next to him we have Mr. Muhammad Afzal, who is our treasurer. And next to him we have the Pakistan Consul of Manchester, Syed Ishtiaq Hussain Andrabi. In the middle we have Munaver Rasul, our chairperson. And next to him we have our invited guest, Dr. Patel, who will be talking about the issue of blood transfusions and many other things. Those are many medical terms. I'm sorry, I can't understand the medical terms, but I'm sure he will enlighten us with that. And on my immediate right, we have Eddy Newman, our member of European Parliament, and we are sitting in his constituency here, having this meeting. Now, I don't want to take too much of your time. I had intended to give you a brief background to what we are. We have started the campaign to establish a friendship link between Manchester and Faisalabad, and I will now invite our Pakistan Consul from Manchester Consulate to give us a brief background, because he was involved from the very beginning after his predecessor started the process of. Can I invite Syed Ishtiaq Hussain Andrabi to come and give his brief outline. Mr. Andrabi.
Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. May I express on behalf of the High Commissioner his profound regrets for being delayed, unfortunately due to very heavy traffic on the motorways, although he started at 3 o'clock London, but after 2 hours and 30 minutes he had just reached Birmingham. I've just spoken to him a few minutes ago and he has crossed Birmingham, but the traffic is too much, and well, I hope that he will be able to make it, and before we disperse we'll have the words from him, his ideas and his response to the speech by Mr. Munaver Rasul. It's my proud privilege to extend to you a very warm welcome on behalf of Manchester Faisalabad Friendship Committee. It's indeed very encouraging for the committee and the supporters of the proposed link between the two cities that you have found it possible to attend today's function, taking out time from your busy schedules. Manchester and Faisalabad have a lot of similarities and commonalities. Both the cities in their own time have led their respective countries towards their march towards industrialization, both excelling in textile industry. I remember that as a child in our school book, there was a mention of Faisalabad, which was known as Lailpur in those times, as Manchester of Pakistan, referring to the textile industry. But most important of all is the fact that the Pakistanis who have made Britain their home, and especially those who have come to Manchester, majority of them hail from areas of Faisalabad and surrounding areas. They have brought with them the rich culture, traditions, and dedicated efforts, hard work, and in their own humble way, they have contributed to the socio-cultural and economic life of this city. The idea of establishing a formal link between the two cities is quite old. It was in the time of my predecessor, Mr. Khan, that the idea was first floated. It was given good support by the Pakistani community and the host community, some of the councillors, but unfortunately, due to some administrative reasons, it could not make much progress. Then, for a few years, it became dormant. On my arrival, I was approached by Councillor Moghal and some other supporters of the idea, and we again broached the matter with the City Council. In 1993, a meeting of Pakistani community was held in the town hall, which elected a committee to steer the matters, and ever since its inception, ever since their taking over, the committee has made tremendous effort toward this end. They have paid visits to Faisalabad, had one-to-one discussion with the authorities in Faisalabad, have tried to ascertain the requirement, and as a gesture of goodwill on behalf of the people of Manchester, they have presented to the people of Faisalabad a gully cleaner, which has been delivered to the Municipal Corporation of Faisalabad and is being used there. They have also addressed a lot of press conferences. They have made lobbies. They have lobbied the councillors, and the most important thing that they did was that for the first time in the history of Manchester, this time in the Lord Mayor's Parade, the Pakistani community led by Manchester Faisalabad Friendship Committee actively took part in Lord Mayor's Parade, and a float was entered, and also the banners of Manchester Faisalabad Corporation were displayed. These are small gestures, but they have gone a long way in conveying the message to the host community, and I am sure with their dedication soon this proposal will become a reality. On behalf of the Vice Consul of Pakistan, and I'm on my own behalf, and now that I stand here for the time being to represent the High Commissioner on behalf of the High Commissioner and the Government of Pakistan, I assure them our fullest and complete support, and we would be at their beck and call whenever they need it. I wish them all the best, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Andrabi. As I said earlier on, we've got Dr. Bhatti here, who's taken on the responsibility of community welfare. And I would now like to invite Dr. Bhatti to say a few words. I know we're not expecting a long speech from you, just a few words. Thank you very much. Dr. Bhatti.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. I, as a community welfare attaché, welcome you here to attend this happy occasion to the Friendship Manchester and Faisalabad, hosted by Mr. Munaver Rasul and Consul Nasrullah. On my behalf, I fully supported the ideas of Manchester Faisalabad friendship. My full cooperation for them always remain. Thank you. Bye.
I think while we're on the speeches, you'll see in the timetable on the program itself, it says a speech by a councillor. And I'm now going to ask one of my colleagues to prepare something.
Which one?
I'm going to name that person now. So you will have plenty of time to actually think of a few words to say. And you know what the issues are. We've actually debated those within the Labour group itself and also amongst ourselves in the City Council. I will ask Ronnie Myers to Ronnie? Not just yet, but when the time comes. Can I just introduce the honorary officers, because we've already talked about people on the top table. You've already seen me. You haven't heard our chair yet, Munaver Rasul, and I've also introduced our treasurer, Mr. Muhammad Afzal. But we also have Deputy Chair Shahid Ahmed. He's somewhere in the room. Can you make yourself known, please? Mr. Shahid Ahmed. You have the Deputy Secretary, Mr. Munaver Mufti. He's over there as well. And the Deputy Treasurer is Haji Rashid Ahmed. I want to thank my colleagues for actually standing outside and welcoming the people and actually making sure that we do have a correct track record of people who are actually coming here. This committee has been in existence for nearly 2 years now, and we've been grappling with the issue of the Constitution, with the issue of working up projects which we can make happen. And we have already had 2 meetings with the leader of the City Council on the possibilities of the friendship link, which will really be a formality. But short of that, we've got the commitment of every kind of help the City Council can give us. And we've got several officers of the City Council, ranging from the Chief Executive's Department right across to operational services. And I know Munaver Rasul actually mentioned some of those who have helped us considerably in the work which we've been doing. Of course, we've got a lot more work to do. We've got our AGM coming up on the 22nd of October, and I'll be telling you a bit more about that. But the person who has been leading us for the last 2 years with commitment, dedication, with a lot of hard work, and mind you, some of us have actually really felt very depressed at some stages when we've gone through a stage where at least one of us has felt terrible and said, why are we in this? Is there any use? But our chair has actually pulled us out of that and taken us along. He's also had 3 visits to Faisalabad on that particular issue. And I think I actually admire him for the courage and the time he's devoted to that. And now I'd like to invite him to come and deliver his speech, because at least he'll actually give you the nuts and bolts of what we are doing. Please welcome Munaver Rasul, Chair of Faisalabad and Manchester.
Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Now, unfortunately, when I wrote my speech, I assumed that His Excellency was going to be here. So if I make a slip-up, please do forgive me. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all to the first annual dinner of the Faisalabad and Manchester Friendship Committee. For those of you not familiar with our cause, I would like to give you some background by way of an introduction. Manchester has some 60,000 Pakistanis, a large proportion of whom are from Faisalabad. Faisalabad was originally called Lyalpur, headquarters of one of the finest canal systems in the world, built in the British Raj in Punjab, Pakistan. The city was named after Sir Alfred Lyall, the then governor of Punjab province. The center of the city is planned on the pattern of the Union Jack, with a clock tower in the center and 8 bazaars emanating outwards. We have recently presented a painting of the clock tower to the Lord Mayor of Manchester, which now hangs in the town hall. Business communities in Faisalabad and Manchester already have close links. Textile, hosiery and food products are imported from Faisalabad, and machinery and technical equipment is exported to Faisalabad. We actively promote this relationship. Faisalabad, as Mr. Andrabi has already said, is known as the Manchester of Pakistan, as the industry located in and around that city is textile based, as used to be the case for Manchester. The population of Faisalabad is some 2.5 million, and it is the 3rd largest city in Pakistan, coming after Karachi and Lahore. It has been the aspiration of the Pakistani community in Manchester for many years to form a link with Faisalabad. This came to the forefront as a result of the link between Saiwal in Pakistan, which incidentally was called Montgomery before the name was changed, and Rochdale. We now wish to build on this concept and realize a formal link between our 2 cities, which is workable and will withstand the test of time. We are therefore attempting to realize an active 2-way link, which involves Manchester City Council, Faisalabad Municipal Corporation, our committee, and a similar committee set up in Faisalabad. This committee in Manchester came together in October 1992 through the efforts of our patron, Haji Abdul Rashid. Could he make himself known, please? Haji Abdul Rashid, our patron, ladies and gentlemen. And help and advice from Councillor Hamid of Rochdale. Without Haji Abdul Rashid and his continued support and guidance, this venture would not have got off the ground. Having been set up, we visited Faisalabad in January '93 and have made 3 other visits since that time. Each time we visit, our link becomes stronger and stronger. Our visits have been designed to identify projects at both ends to promote and strengthen our link. I'm indebted to our treasurer, Muhammad Afzal, otherwise known as the son of Faisalabad, whose contacts in that city have made this link a reality. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, I was 9 when I came here. I have no links with Faisalabad whatsoever, other than the 4 walls that I see when I visit. Mr. Afzal seems to know the streets of Faisalabad like an ant, because the people who live in Faisalabad don't know the streets as well as he does. Having identified the needs of Faisalabad during our initial visits, our committee purchased a gully or gutter cleaner for presentation to the people of Faisalabad. This was bought with the help of the Direct Works Department of Manchester City Council, in particular Peter Tong and John Stanway of that department. Peter Tong is here, ladies and gentlemen. Could he make himself known, please? Will help from Mr. Abdul Haq. I'm not sure whether he's here. Is Abdul Haq here? He's not. With his contact with Ahmed Mukhtar, the finance minister of Pakistan. There have been many other people who have helped us along the way. Some of whom are here, some are not, but I thank them all. In particular, I would like to pay tribute to one of our founders, Mr. Abdul Ghafoor, who, as some people will know, died a few days ago. I'm particularly pleased that this vehicle will be in operation very soon. It was the thought of manual workers losing their lives in carrying out the same exercise with buckets and spades which originally enthused me. I was disgusted with the fact that sons of mothers had to die to earn 200 rupees, which in English money is £4, because equipment wasn't available to them, which was readily available here. I sincerely hope that our efforts, in a small way, shall alleviate this problem. The same equipment new would cost £400,000 to put in place in Pakistan. We bought this cleaner for some £4,000, and the cost would be around £10,000 to get it into place. This will do the same job for many years to come. It has taken us Herculean tasks to get this into place, and almost a year. Was it worth it, I think to myself and my colleagues at various times. I believe that it was well worth it, as we have had experience and a system put in place to ease such exports for the future. This exercise has also put us in touch with many people on both sides who will be able to help us in the future, two major players being Sir Christopher McRae and Wajid Shamsul Hasan. Whilst working on this project, we've identified others both ways which will save countless lives at both ends. Identifying projects is naturally easier for Faisalabad, but has been more difficult for Manchester. However, we believe that we will be the only link which will be able to deliver tangible and direct benefits for the city of Manchester. As a blood donor, ladies and gentlemen, I was interested in the system operated in Pakistan, in particular Faisalabad, and to my surprise I found that they didn't have a system. I have since actively pursued the provision of such a system in that city, which can be used as a model for the rest of Pakistan, indeed for the third world. I here acknowledge the help and assistance given to me by Keith Bradley MP, who unfortunately has not been able to make this function. During my research, I have come across Dr. Kashyap Patel, who will be giving you an insight into how this can be achieved at a relatively modest cost. Unfortunately, donation of blood is not a norm in Pakistani society, and I hope that our efforts will mean that more of our people in this country will regularly donate blood. There is, as it happens, ladies and gentlemen, a shortage of blood group O at present, and I urge you all to consider donation seriously to plug this gap. Why should we expect to have the right to blood when it is required by us, when we are not prepared to give for others? I hope that in a small way, our involvement will mean that more Pakistanis, Asians, will give blood regularly, and even if this means 1,000 units a year, it is a direct benefit to this city which did not exist before. Dr. Patel will no doubt tell you that in 1976 there were only 42 cases of AIDS reported worldwide. Now there are millions of people who are HIV positive. Certain countries in Africa have acute problems. Only recently it was reported that Zimbabwe has an adult population of which 40% is HIV positive. We in Pakistan are rather lucky so far, but AIDS is spreading through the blood transfusion system, as majority of the time the blood is provided by professional donors. It is not tested for disease. Alternatively, the source may be friends or relatives who may not know or admit to existence of disease. Aside of AIDS, there is hepatitis B, of which 1/3 of the Pakistani population are carriers, and numerous other diseases. Do we not owe it to our fellow citizens of the world to alleviate such misery if we are able to do this at a relatively low cost? Gentlemen, and ladies in particular, mothers, what would we not give if it was our son or daughter? The people who take infected blood transfusion only to die slowly and miserably are some mothers' children. The way AIDS is spreading, sooner or later, it will be the problem of us all. And I hope that His Excellency will be able to provide us with the scissors that will cut through the red tape in Pakistan to make this blood bank in Faisalabad a reality in the near future. As this concept is a learning exercise for us, it is the same in Faisalabad, and we are looking to Dr. Patel to go with us to Faisalabad on a public relations exercise to sell this to the people and authorities in that city. We hope that he will be involved with this project until it becomes a reality and beyond. Once a blood bank is established, we will carry this one step further by establishing the first civilian burns unit in Faisalabad, Pakistan. Faisalabad and Pakistan. There is only one burns unit in the whole of Pakistan, and that is an army burns unit, which only holds 10 beds. You can appreciate, ladies and gentlemen, that the people who get burned are the poor people in the country, and these people have no facilities available to them. A burns unit requires numerous quantities of plasma, which is a part of the blood which is not transfused, as Dr. Patel will explain. We believe that these two projects go hand in hand and have given them top priority in our agenda. Others may feel differently. But by this means, we can save tens of thousands of lives year on year. We have had support for this idea from the World Health Organization in Geneva. I trust that this venture has your support. Since we came together, we've organized press conferences to report back on our trips to Faisalabad. But this is our first attempt on reporting back personally. From now on, this will be an annual event. Our original constitution, unfortunately, was not acceptable to the Charity Commissioner. We've therefore redrafted that constitution, and we will be getting an indication from the Charity Commissioner before the 22nd of October, the date that we have set for our annual general meeting. In future, our annual dinner will precede our annual general meeting, which shall be held in October. We are inviting you to become members of this organization and work towards a link between our two great cities. This meeting today has been a start in that a substantial part of the audience is non-Pakistani. We as a community are beginning to address the community at large as opposed to addressing the Pakistani community within. We are also addressing a part of our community which has been sadly overlooked in the past, namely our ladies. I hope that we shall now see greater participation from them in the future. I am thankful to His Excellency Wajid Shamsul for his help in the past, in particular his support in our participation in the Lord Mayor's Parade this year. For that was the first time that we have made the people of Manchester aware of our existence. I hope that this will continue in a bigger and better way in the future. May I thank at this stage the ladies from APWA, in particular Mrs. Ahmed. Could they make themselves known, please? Ladies from APWA. And Pakistan Friends Alliance, Mr. Siddiqui. Could he make himself known, please? Mr. Siddiqui. Without whom I would not have been able to participate in the Lord Mayor's Parade and make it the success that it was. Also, a special thanks goes to members of the Junior Chamber who organised the Lord Mayor's Parade. I know Dave Hudson is here. Could Dave Hudson make himself known, please? And Leslie Lewis. We're planning a spectacular entry in the Lord Mayor's Parade next year with the involvement of these organisations and with the Pakistani High Commission. We're in the process of putting together Pakistan Week either directly before or directly after the Lord Mayor's Parade in '96, which will afford Manchester direct benefits from this link. There are specific areas of help that we are looking for from His Excellency Wajid Shamsul. Facilities from PIA, protocol in Pakistan, and easier route through red tape in Pakistan to reduce the delays in exports. We have had tremendous support from numerous organisations, not all of whom are here. We've had to plan this year's function rather hurriedly and during holidays, but I hope that next year we will be able to invite more people, and more people will be able to come along. I thank you all for attending, and I hope that you have found the comments of interest. I look forward to your support. Please accept our thanks. This was to go to His Excellency Wajid Shamsul for gracing this occasion, and we look forward to seeing him in the future. God bless you, ladies, gentlemen, distinguished guests, the Queen, and Faisalabad and Manchester Friendship. Thank you. One final thing. Is Councillor Alison Firth here? Could she make herself known if she's here, please? No, she's not. Okay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
I think the reason the chair was mentioning Councillor Firth was because she was one of the early ones to respond positively.
She was the only one.
She was the only one to respond
out of 99.
Oh, that's interesting. Her colleague is here, John Collins over there. At the end, I'm sure he'll pass on the message to Alison.
No, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I wrote to all the councillors when I became chair of Faisalabad Manchester Friendship Committee, and only one councillor replied, and that was Councillor Alison Firth. That's why I wanted to make a special mention of her.
I don't want to be partisan, but we actually discussed your letter in the Labour group, so we all had a common interest. Okay, I think time is moving on, and since Chair, you just introduced Dr. Patel, it is appropriate that we actually listen to what he has to say now. I think it's going to take about 20 odd minutes, and hopefully, if you feel you want to have a discussion, you have questions, then we can take those as well. Dr. Patel, can I just, sorry, before I bring you in. My papers are all over the place at the moment. Yes, what I was going to say was Dr. Patel is going to talk about the blood banking and AIDS and other transmitted diseases in developing countries. He's got a track record of actually establishing a unit in Ahmedabad in India, and he's been the honorary director of the Red Cross blood bank in the Indian Red Cross. So he's got tremendous credentials with which he comes to actually talk to us about blood banking. Dr. Patel.
Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, let me express my sincere thanks to Munaver for giving me this opportunity of sharing my experiences of running a voluntary blood bank in India. it happened about 8-9 months back that I got a phone call from a senior consultant hematologist working in Manchester Blood Transfusion Center when I was in America regarding getting in touch with Munaver Bhaiya for establishing a blood bank in Pakistan. And I was a bit surprised because I didn't know how did they get hold of me. But then Dr. Shwe explained me that in one of the meetings hosted by Northwest Association of Hematologists, I was asked to share my experiences about blood transfusion in developing countries. And she thought I was an appropriate person to be able to get in touch with Faisalabad Manchester Friendship Society and share my experiences to enable them jointly to establish a blood bank. I might have to apologize before I begin with the fact that some of the statements that I'm going to make might appear that I'm going to make derogatory comments about developing countries. But I have to. I'm a strong patriotic person and I still believe about the integrity and culture of Asian subcontinent. But the facts which I have seen in running a blood bank are literally alarming and hair-raising, and they have been ignored for quite a while now. Most of my experience is based on my observation and running administration of blood bank in India, but I'm sure the red tapeism and the political setup and the cultural beliefs are much the same between India and Pakistan and would apply to both the countries together. Let me begin with the problems that we have in establishing efficient blood banking services. All Western countries like England, America, all European countries have got a centralized blood agency, which is a non-profitable organization. In England, it is known as National Blood Authority. The main function of the National Blood Authority is to identify the needs in terms of amount of blood required, in terms of amount of financial input required, in terms of amount of measures necessary to establish a strong voluntary blood donation program, as well as administer different blood transfusion centers. In India, the first effort was made sometimes in 1987 where the government of India decided to establish blood bank authority at the national level called under the direction of Director General of Health Services. But I left India in 1992 and so far it's just a body on paper. So we don't have centralized transfusion services at a national level, basically looking after the needs of blood. The second problem, if we leave central government, when we come to the state or a regional level, I had a very strong political connections with the health ministry in our state. And the minister didn't know an ABC of blood banking, and fortunately because of my relations with them, we could convince them for enacting certain laws pertaining to blood banking, which I'll come to them later on. There's a great discrepancy in availability of the blood. The one town where I come from, it's like Faisalabad, it's known as Manchester of India because it's full of textile industries. In Ahmedabad, we had a very strong blood program where we could meet 100% needs for the people for any amount of requirement of the blood. If you go down to Calcutta or if you go down to a city like Madras, till 1990 they didn't have well-organized blood transfusion services, which meant more than about 70% of the blood requirement came from private sector. Now I don't mean to say that the whole amount of blood was supplied by professional donors, but majority of the blood was being taped from professional donors. Similarly, one of my colleagues who was working in Manchester Blood Transfusion Center, who was based in Calcutta, she said that when she was visiting her mother, she needed O blood group for her mother at around 6 in the evening. She couldn't get any blood till about 2 at night, where they found 2 relatives with the same blood group. And she decided to go and start a blood bank in Calcutta, and she took some guidance from me. She also went to Ahmedabad to visit that blood bank. I haven't heard from her as yet, but hope she's doing well there. But Calcutta, a city of almost 1 crore of people, didn't have an organized blood transfusion setup. And India and Pakistan has a majority of the population living in villages, so we can't imagine about villages. It's all disastrous. When we talk of donors, I mean, of course, it's not true that anybody die. Most of the people die without blood. Most of the people tend to manage to get blood. But how? They either can persuade the relatives to donate their blood, or they can buy blood from professional blood sellers. There's no objection to taking blood from the relatives as far as it's going to be screened. But my experience as a private practicing hematologist in the city of Ahmedabad believe that most of the private run blood bank never used to bother for screening blood either for jaundice or for AIDS simply because of financial reasons. They can make more profit by not using their blood test kits and providing blood saying that it's been tested for HIV or it's been tested for jaundice. For those people who read the Times, there was an alarming article yesterday about similar practices being observed in Bombay, where some of the blood banks which have been licensed were found to use the blood which was either not tested for AIDS and was certified as having been tested for AIDS. When you look at the blood being used from commercial donors, I don't think anybody of you would have actually seen what sort of people do they look like. It's a sorry state of affairs, but they are usually beggars or they are drug addicts, lying down in the footpath in the streets for the night, and as and when they need blood, as and when they need money, they'll go and sell their blood. A conservative estimate which did a survey on professional blood sellers found that between 10 to 30% of the blood donors were found to have either jaundice, hepatitis or AIDS. Many such studies have been taken in Bombay, and one of the senior officials from Indian Council of Medical Research in 1988 commented that if the AIDS keeps on spreading like this in Bombay, by the end of the decade or in next coming 15 years, every 10th housewife in Bombay will be carrying AIDS virus. The commercial blood donors, apart from carrying diseases, they are all anemic. Their own hemoglobin would be perhaps less than half of what you have. So there is no sense in buying blood from the commercial blood donors either. Now let's try and look at the problems arising as a result of lack of an organized blood banking services in developing countries. As I quoted an experience of my own colleague who comes from a fairly elite family, who had to run for about 8 hours for getting group 4 positive blood, which is quite common in developing countries. I think about 40% of the people carry group 4 blood. There could be life-threatening situations where if you don't give blood within 2-3 hours, the patient is definitely going to die. And I can assure you that with the disorganized blood bank setup, either you use blood which has been taped from the commercial donors, or you just let the people die. One major obstacle that I encountered in establishing the blood bank, the voluntary blood bank, was vested commercial interests. I'm sorry to say, but I would have to blame my professional doctor colleagues who got major interest, because if a voluntary blood bank sets on its own, if it starts working efficiently, then most of the pathologists or the doctors who are involved in blood banking activities are going to be deprived of their huge profits, and their effort was to sort of warn the people against donating the blood, and this was a fact of life. The results of non-availability of blood or buying blood from the commercial donors is, you might come across catastrophe, like you might just let person exsanguinate for lack of blood, or possibility of transmission of diseases. I've already mentioned earlier that between 10 to 30% of the professional blood sellers are found to be carrying different sorts of viruses, either the hepatitis B or hepatitis C or AIDS viruses. And it's like, if you buy blood from them, there's 1 in 10 to 1 in 3 chance of you getting the disease. Which means if you don't start planning for efficient blood banking services now, maybe 20 years from now, and you might start seeing AIDS cases within your own families. Apart from AIDS and hepatitis, syphilis or malaria can also be transmitted by blood, as well as the other infections. Everything is not gloomy. There are solutions to all the problems, but if we try and throw it onto the government sets, if we try and throw it onto some charitable institution sets, it's not going to be there. We all have to make a collective efforts. The way we tackled this problem was establishing a blood bank with the local support. We went to Indian Red Cross Society, which already had a small voluntary blood donation program. We formed a trust with them. We incorporated some government official into that trust, and we called that blood bank as a Red Cross blood bank. Similarly, if any city, if any town wants to establish their own blood bank, they can identify either the Lions Club or the Junior Chambers or Rotary or any voluntary non-profit trust to decide to establish a blood bank. Once you establish a blood bank, I'll come to the aspects of motivation for the blood donation later on. But the prime thing is to create a floating stock or a floating system between this particular blood bank which you would establish and the local hospital, so that you can always have surplus on one side and deficient on the other side, which can be balanced out. To promote voluntary blood donation, I'll come to the details about how did we manage to persuade people with a strong cultural belief of not donating blood and converting them into blood donors. Prohibit private blood banking by enacting law. We could start this in India by persuading the members of parliaments and members of legislative assembly, by educating them. Literally, we had to educate our parliamentarians about AIDS and convince them regarding the necessity of enacting. And now the government of India at central level has passed a law which requires that anybody who's involved in blood donation, either in form of a blood bank or even in just taking the blood and giving it to the patient, has to meet certain criteria, which include a definite amount of space, definite tests being carried out, which include AIDS, hepatitis, and other necessary tests, regular surveillance by Foods and Drugs authorities, so on and so forth. It's not a foolproof system, but because of this, because of the scare of being monitored, quite a few people have been able to, have been refraining from involving into illicit blood banking activities. This was a great help in controlling the possibility of HIV transmission through blood transfusion, especially in our city and our state. There is also necessity for establishing a state level authority, which I'm sure His Majesty the Consulate from Embassy would try to pass on message to requisite or through the government channels regarding this necessity. There's also need to establish a strong national level agency which is not directly under government control, like an autonomous body involving professionals like, say, Indian Medical Association or Pakistan Medical Association, or involving the other philanthropic people to monitor, to anticipate the needs for blood units in the coming years, and how to generate that, and what are the best uses of blood that they can make of. When I took over the Red Cross Blood Bank in 1989, the annual turnover of that blood bank was 4,000 units, which meant we collected 4,000 units from the voluntary donors, and we used to dispatch 4,000 units to needy persons, which formed about 1/25th of the total requirement of the city, because city needed about more than 100,000 units every year, and we had to get down to this problem. We got involved into the major drive for mobilizing the blood donors. We first approached the media like television and radio, and requested them to start mock programs, or like some of the dramas to warn people about AIDS, to warn people about jaundice, and to warn people about hazards of blood transfusion if it's not coming from the voluntary sector. This did help in mobilizing the people who are literate. Another major mobilization came from voluntary clubs. Like, we approached the district governor of the Lions Club of Ahmedabad, who was very supportive, and they took over the task, and they took blood donation as an aim of the next year for the Lions Club performance. So each and every Lions Club involved in suburbs were trying their best to mobilize blood donors to win a prize, and that was an incentive for them, but it helped us a lot in recruiting new donors. Similarly, Rotary, JCs and other clubs also helped us a lot. Trade unions, actually, in mobilizing the people who were less literate, who were less educated, approaching the trade unions was a big help. Like, at least the leaders were little more aware, they were little more responsible, we thought, and quite a few factories. I mean, we used to go down to the factories, taking the folding cots in the rickshaws and collect blood from the factories. About 20% of our total blood came from the trade unions and various camps. Replacement donors. This was another good way of mobilizing donors. Like, whenever somebody came for collecting blood from our blood bank, we always used to say that, well, we can't give you blood without replacement. Of course, we were not stringent about that, and we never let anybody die without blood. But so far as possible, we motivated the person who comes to collect blood to donate blood. And once a person donates blood, his phobia or his fear of getting diseased goes away. So this helped us a lot in recruiting new voluntary blood donors who subsequently took over the blood donation exercises. We also used to felicitate donors. That was a good incentive. Like, anybody who donated blood 10 times used to get a certificate from the governor. Anybody who used to donate blood for 25 times used to get a silver-plated medal, or somebody who donated 50 times used to get a gold medal. And I have to say that in our blood bank, which was working for 25 years, we had about more than 35 donors who donated blood more than 100 times in the last 25 years. Another way to mobilize donors, those people who are quite conservative, who do not believe in donating blood, is to give them a temptation, not in terms of financial incentives, but like, we can say that if you donate us, say, 10 times, we can give you half of it in return, in the sense that if somebody falls ill in your family, we can give you 5 units of blood, or half of the amount of blood which you have donated to the blood bank. And this also helped us a lot in mobilizing blood donors. To actually start proceeding to establish a blood bank, the first thing is to identify a group of people. I have mentioned it earlier, but let me repeat it again. Like, if you have a local Red Cross society, or if you have a group of people which have been registered as a registered voluntary trust, you can amalgamate with the local interest there, like the Lions Club or the JC's Club, or within the blood bank management team, you can incorporate the Lions district governor, the local government official like district magistrate or collector or municipal commissioner, and establish a group of 15 or 20 responsible people who are going to be looking after this blood bank. Next, you would establish or draft a constitution. It is necessary to identify the aims for establishing any organization, and we have done it over a period of 3 or 4 years, establishing different trusts, and which should not be limited to blood banking exercises, because as Munaver has already mentioned, that blood banking is just the first step. Once you establish a blood bank, you would have many byproducts like a plasma fractionation plant, or you can have a burns unit supported by the plasma which you generate from this blood bank. Regarding the space requirement, I would think I was talking to Munaver and I would told him that about 100 square meters of space in any decent area would be more than enough for establishing a blood bank. When we look at starting something in our own home country, we got to forget that we are in Western country, because the needs here are different, the priorities are different. We cannot imagine establishing a blood bank like Manchester Blood Transfusion Centre spending millions of pounds. Our priorities are to start at some stage. For that, regarding financial needs, I would say £20,000 is a decent amount with which you can start a beginning. If you have got about 100 square meters of space, and if you got a corpus generated by donations up to £20,000, that would very easily help you taking off as a blood bank. The next step would come is start recruiting donors. I've already mentioned earlier, and if required, I'm quite happy to go with Munaver to Faisalabad to involve into public relations exercises in how to motivate donors and how to mobilize people for donating blood. Any institution, if you establish, cannot survive simply on the basis of donations that it gets. You have to generate sources of income. Now, it's not known to most of the people in developing countries, but WHO had been giving grants for conducting AIDS tests for all the bloods to all voluntary non-profit charitable trusts involved in blood banking. Similarly, Swedish International Development Agency has some schemes promoting blood donation activities and plasma fractionation plant. In fact, we jointly with the Blood Transfusion Center in Bombay got a whole plasma fractionation center worth 8 crore rupees in donation, simply because we were involved in blood donation activities which generated about 20,000 liters of plasma every year. And some of the products of this plasma, like human albumin, those people who've got relatives who have cirrhosis or who've got renal failure or kidney failure would know importance of human albumin. It's a life-saving drug for patients suffering from cirrhosis or liver disease. Now, all these things would come as a byproduct of a blood bank if you have an established decent blood bank. You can also approach several non-government organizations operating at local level as well as international level. And you can keep a nominal service charge. Like in our own blood bank, the average cost per unit of blood that was being issued came to about 150 rupees, which included service charge and everything, which also included AIDS test. And we used to take 120 rupees in form of service charge, because we could generate 30 rupees either from the government and generate some more money for the development. The reason why I'm so much inclined for highlighting the needs of blood banking is we are still in the illusion that our culture is different than Western culture and AIDS is not going to attack us. I might use some of the Urdu lafz, क्योंकि I'll have to sort of apologize from the people who don't understand Urdu, but it's necessary to highlight the need to the audience sitting at the other side. एड्स ऐसी बीमारी है कि एक बार अगर आ जाएगी तो उसका कोई उपाय ही नहीं है, क्योंकि एड्स अकेला नहीं, उसके साथ ट्यूबरक्लोसिस आता है, डायरियाज आते हैं, और वो सिर्फ वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज में लिमिटेड नहीं है। हिंदुस्तान में तो हमने देखा है, पाकिस्तान का मालूम नहीं, जहाँ पर भी हमने कोई सैंपल सर्वे किया है इन हाई रिस्क ग्रुप्स लाइक प्रोस्टिट्यूट्स में जब किया है, या तो या बेगर्स में किया है, या ड्रग एडिक्ट्स में किया है, हर 10 इंसान में से एक इंसान एड्स पॉजिटिव निकला है, HIV पॉजिटिव निकला है। और एक बार अगर आपको एड्स की बीमारी लग जाएगी तो देयर इज नो वे आउट, कोई नहीं बचा पाएगा। तो इट इज नेसेसरी दैट वी हैव some responsibility to the society. We have to alert our fellow countrymen back home. We have to convince them about the needs of having voluntary blood banking activities. And if one model blood bank establishes, like our blood bank has become a model for the nation. In 1990, a group from Madras approached us for guidance for establishing blood bank there, which I believe has been working pretty well. And on the similar grounds, many blood banks are coming up. Similarly, if you manage to establish one good blood bank in Faisalabad, that itself will be an illustration for the other districts to get motivation for establishing blood banks in other parts as well. I hope this gives you a good idea of what we should do. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Patel, for that highly technical and also motivating speech on blood banking and obviously the issue of HIV and AIDS. Dr. Patel is saying that he is willing to answer questions if people have got any questions. Well, the idea was to introduce the subject to quite a few people from our communities, so that when we have maybe this is one area where we could actually establish a project across in Faisalabad, and it will be very useful.
Hello? Yeah.
Syed Nasrullah from PIA.
Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Kashyap, for a very enlightening discourse on the blood banking. My question to you is, my question to you is that can this green blood, which is free from all the diseases, can it be stored for a longer period of time? If it can we possibly conceive of a situation where we can have an international blood bank, just like we have the international banks all over? Can we have a reservoir of the blood bank available to alleviate the suffering of the human beings? This is my question.
Yes, thank you for a very interesting question. It's quite technical, but yes, answer is yes. There are international blood reference centers. One is based in Geneva, one is based in Birmingham or Bristol, I'm not quite sure, which have got frozen blood. The present commitment for the frozen blood banking is to store blood which is of a very rare group. As I've already said, that the Western countries have already met their needs for blood transfusion, for routine blood grouping. So they only store the blood which is of very rare group or which contains some rare antigens which is suitable for certain group of people. The cost involved in that is enormous, and that's the reason why it's not possible to establish that. I wouldn't imagine India going for a frozen blood bank for coming 20-25 years. But yes, you can store it in a liquid nitrogen at a very low temperature. The other alternative for preventing or getting rid of possibility of transmitted diseases is autologous blood transfusion, where if you got a planned operation, like if somebody has to undergo an operation for hernia, you can deposit your blood 5 weeks in advance, you can give 1 unit of blood for 4 weeks, and the same blood will be used for yourself when you are undergoing operation. Most of the surgeries, about 25% of the operations performed in developing countries are planned one, and you can very easily, securely, store your blood for 5 weeks. But again, it is necessary to be stored at appropriate temperatures, and a good blood bank would certainly help. Like, you can store blood for 35 days with the present facilities. So it's quite feasible to store it here.
I don't mind banging my head.
Yes, well done.
Can I thank you once again, Dr. Patel. It's very useful. Already, our chair mentioned Mrs. Ahmed, who helped, along with her colleagues, in the Lord Mayor's Parade, when we had the whole issue of not only getting people together, but also decorating the float, which was very hard work. And I must say, Mr. Andrabi particularly is deserving of our praise, because he managed to fly in loads of flags for that particular purpose. Now, I understand many people all over Northwest are actually using those flags. At this stage, I would like to invite Mrs. Nusrat Ahmed to come and deliver her speech. Mrs. Ahmed.
Syed Ishtiaq Syed Ishtiaq Hussain Andrabi, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. I would like to take this opportunity to thank, on behalf of APWA, to the chairperson, Munaver Rasul, Councillor Nasrullah Khan, executive members of Faisalabad and Manchester Friendship Committee. We wish you good luck in your project. Once again, I've been asked to express my feelings, and I must say that I'm very impressed today. I want to give a little introduction about myself. I was born in Uganda, came here in 1972. During that period, I started my voluntary work with MCCR. I have taken this line after my parents. I have always worked in Stockport, apart from 4 years which I spent in Pakistan. I am voluntarily giving my time to different organizations and helping individuals. I don't cover my head, but I envy those who can do it. I am proud to be Pakistani, and now my home is Britain. I very strongly believe in my religion and culture. Out of the darkness, shine the light. Same way I want Manchester women to glow in this society. Faisalabad and Manchester Friendship Committee is opening doors to everyone, especially women of all caste and creed, who wants to realize their potential and who has ambitions to achieve their goals in life. Age, background, qualifications, and previous experience would help Faisalabad Manchester Friendship Committee. Ladies, let's have a network together towards the field of success. Join for the blood banking and help those who need your assistance. Let's help elderly, sick people, children, and care for the needy ones. Today's women, future mothers, sisters, and friends, I'm sure you can help. The closer we come to our own circumstances and experiences, the better. It is not only right, but our duty to seek honestly our own solutions, and while we respect authority, we must not neglect or despise the gift which Allah has accumulated for us through all ages. I always pray for strength and light so that I may be able to succeed in this environment. Allah guides the human. If one has faith and trust in mankind, He provides all the means for growth, moral and social needs. Good deeds are the best precious possessions in life. Ladies, let's stand by humanity and make special care for all those whom we have neglected in past. Orphans, women, those in need of food and comfort. Let's forget the outer color of our skin and help the local community, whatever walks of life they come from. This is the field we need your contribution of your time, and please do become members of this organization. Let's say goodbye to our pride and selfishness. We must learn to share difficult times with others. I don't know the exact counting figures of women in Manchester, but I have noticed in various functions a large number. My request is to lay the foundation of an ever closer environment among the peoples of the society and to combine efforts to contribute the voluntary and charitable duties towards this organization. Ladies, please do join Islamabad and Manchester Friends Committee. Use your abilities and qualifications and don't let it die down. At the end, I would like to say unity is goodness, power and religion. Culture values are precious in life. Let's put aside our differences, jealousies, hatred, and work voluntarily with our brothers side by side. Commitment is the road to success. Ladies, take advantage of equal opportunity as well. Long live Faisalabad, Manchester Friendship Committee, and whenever you need APWA's help, we will stand by. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we'll just proceed with the program. The next speaker is going to be Eddy Newman, but before I ask him to speak, we actually went through some difficult times in the 70s and 80s when we were trying to decide whether we play our role in Europe or not. And in the end we decided that the best way to play a role was to participate in the European institutions. And Eddy Newman came along on that basis. And we campaigned for him to get elected, and he did get elected. But his fame, early fame, came to the fore when he discovered the so-called food mountains. I think some of you will remember that it was the first time when we realized there was surplus food in the European community, which was being stored up for years and years, and nobody was using it. And Eddy was forceful in identifying where those food mountains were. And as we all know, many of us who are in the communities, that the surplus food then started being distributed through the voluntary sector. And many people in Manchester have benefited from that. There are other areas where he has worked extremely hard with ourselves and with the different communities in Manchester. And he's been very supportive of the friendship link which we are trying to establish. But also, he's also hopefully will open some doors in the hierarchy of the European Commission. And I'm also working with him on various other issues as well, but I don't want to go into that at the moment. So can we welcome Eddy Newman to say a few words. Eddy.
Thank you. Mr. Consul, distinguished guests, members of the committee, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very pleased to be attending this magnificent function this evening. We haven't even started the dinner yet, and I'm not going to talk for very long, but I think that the speeches and the presentation from Dr. Patel and the information from the chairman of the Friendship Committee and the information that's been given this evening has certainly been enlightening, I think, to many people here. I believe that the Pakistani community in Manchester and the surrounding area is a mature community. You have brought your ethnic identity, which is now a full part of Manchester. You brought your religion, which is now a full part of Manchester. You brought many aspects of your culture and your heritage, which are full parts of Manchester. And I think by this time, perhaps it should have happened earlier, but by this time it's reasonable, it's very important that you have not only established but are trying to build up this link of friendship between Manchester and Faisalabad, not only because of the obvious links between many in the Pakistani community who live in Manchester today and relatives and friends and so on who live in Faisalabad and the surrounding area, but also precisely because you're a numerous and mature part of the Manchester community. It's important that everybody from the rest of the community in Manchester should understand that positively, not just in terms of things like good race relations, however important that is, not just in things like respecting your religion, however and very important that is, but also in terms of this kind of two-way relationship between Manchester and Faisalabad. Manchester, whether it be people from the Pakistani community or the rest of the population, need to give something to the people of Faisalabad, just as the people of Faisalabad already, over many, many years, of course, have given to the people of Manchester and will continue to do so. It should be a two-way relationship that will be of mutual benefit to the people of both areas. And it's in that way that I look at this development of this friendship. That's why I was so pleased when I heard about it, and I had initial meetings with officers, a meeting with the officers of the committee, gave them every support I could, a little bit of advice about dealing with the council and so forth, and how I can't make promises on behalf of the European institutions as a whole. But I will obviously do my utmost to try and see if we can get this link between Manchester and Faisalabad and assistance to development in Faisalabad. And obviously the blood bank project is an obvious, excellent example, which is a modest, very modest project really, but you've got to start with something. I want to see what I can do. I can say I'm not in a position to make promises. I don't make those decisions as an individual, but I will certainly work very hard to use what influence I have with the European authorities to help in that project and in future projects that will come out of a growing and strengthening relationship. So I finish by congratulating you all on what you've done so far. Of course, it's really only the beginning, and as the banners say at the back there, long live Faisalabad and Manchester friendship. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eddy. The chair has asked me to actually prolong the meeting a little bit. But on the other hand, we've got the food. The food is getting ready as well. Where's running on?
Yeah,
Okay. I'll give her a couple of minutes. We've had messages of support from many people, and I'll just read those out. They range from the British High Commissioner to Pakistan, Sir Christopher McRae, obviously the Pakistani High Commissioner in the UK, Wajid Shamsul Hasan. Then the chair of the Karachi Port Trust, Rear Admiral Akbar Khan. We've heard from Eddy Newman, we mentioned Keith Bradley, Darren Kaufman, Tony Lloyd, all MPs. From Pakistan, the members of National Assembly, Shahid Nazir, George Clement, Ahmed Mukhtar. Coming back to Manchester, the Lord Mayor of Manchester, Chief Administrator, Faisalabad Municipal Corporation, Councillor Graham Stringer, leader of Manchester City Council. I must add also the support from the Labour group and from the Conservatives and also from the Liberal Democrats. I'll go on with the Commissioner of Faisalabad, the Deputy Inspector General of Faisalabad. We've heard from All Pakistan Women's Association in Manchester, Pakistan Friends Alliance we've heard from. And there's a list of councillors as well, and I won't go into that, apart from mentioning that Councillor Bernard Selby and Kath Fry and Kath Robinson have been with us for many months on these issues. From the Direct Works of Manchester City Council, John Stanley and Peter Tong, Pakistan International Airlines in Manchester, the World Health Organization, Geneva, Overseas Pakistanis Foundation, Islamabad, the British Council, Islamabad, Mia Amin, who is the Director of Water and Sanitation Agency in Faisalabad. And of course, we have a parallel committee in Faisalabad, and the chair of that, Mr. Sheikh, and his colleagues, the Local Government International Bureau in London, Javed Qureshi, Chief Secretary Punjab, Lahore, the Rotary Club in Faisalabad, and the Lions Club in Faisalabad. And we have heard about what role we can play jointly with the Rotary Club and the Lions Club when we talk about the blood transfusion service. I was going to ask you that we have already asked you to become members of this committee, and I'll just briefly read out 3 simple objectives so that you should know what you are trying to participate in. Our objectives are, number 1, to provide a forum between the people of Manchester and Faisalabad. That's a basic one. And secondly, to encourage development of exchanges with the object of relief of poverty, misery and disease, the advancement of education and promotion of racial harmony. We believe we can do that in both cities. And thirdly, cooperation in the forms of projects in the promotion of culture, education and health. We've also got another objective to help promote commerce and trade, and in whichever way we can as a charitable organization. Those are the objects, and we are hoping that you will actually participate in that. I'm extremely grateful, sir, that Your Excellency Syed Wajid Shamsul Hasan, High Commissioner for Pakistan, is with us now. I'm sorry I went on because I had to continue the conversation while you took your place. We have heard that you had a very difficult journey. I'm traveling to Birmingham tomorrow, and I hope I don't have that problem myself. But, anyway, we are extremely thankful to you that you actually made it. We were, as you know, politicians try to prolong things quite a lot, and we are quite well in doing that. We have had most of our speeches, Your Excellency. I'm going to call one more speaker, and then, if you like, you could actually say a few words, or if you prefer, you could say after having dinner. But I'll leave that entirely up to you as to what you want to do. But while you think about that, can I did indicate one of my colleagues who has got vast experience on the City Council in various capacities. I will not go into the list of those. Can I ask Ronnie Myers, Councillor Ronnie Myers, to come and say a few words? Ronnie?
here tonight. I wasn't expecting to make a speech, and I'm sure you'll be pleased to know I'm not going to. I'd just like to thank the organisers for inviting me to this function. I think it's a brilliant way of people getting to know each other and a mixture of cultures. Could I also just say very quickly, I totally support this friendship between Faisalabad and Manchester, and hope it goes from strength to strength. Thank you.
I've got the indication that His Excellency will actually address us now, and that's good news. Because as I keep saying, the food is ready, everybody's hungry, and we actually want to invite His Excellency, because he has been stalwart in actually making sure the link takes a definite shape. We had a problem earlier on where our gully cleaner was stuck in Karachi for many months, and His Excellency promised once in Manchester that he will do it. And some of us were very skeptical, really, because how would he do it? But he did it, and that was the important thing. He did it. And I invite His Excellency, the High Commissioner of Pakistan.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First of all, I must apologize for coming so late. I think it was longest drive ever that I have had since I have arrived here. I could make it to Glasgow in 5 hours. It took me exactly 5 hours to reach this place today. As Moghal Sahib has told you that I received a fax from Munaver Rasul as to what he was to say here. I read it, and it was indeed a matter of immense pleasure to go through his speech, text of his speech, and the achievements that Faisalabad Manchester Friendship Committee has achieved during such a short time. Mr. Munaver Rasul, Chairman of the Faisalabad Manchester Friendship Committee, the distinguished guests, I am profoundly happy to be with you at the first annual dinner of the Faisalabad Manchester Friendship Committee. The task of last speaker at a gathering where those with the gift of the gab have fought earlier is rather difficult, especially when one has to talk while good food is waiting to be enjoyed. Although, according to the program, I have been allocated 10 minutes, and I promise you I'll be very short. Ladies and gentlemen, I must congratulate, commend and appreciate the excellent work being done by the Faisalabad Manchester Friendship Committee. While everyone in the committee must have contributed his or her bit to make it an astounding success for which they all deserve plaudits. I have found in Mr. Munaver Rasul a man with conviction, full-throated drive, and total commitment to what he wants to do. I came to know of it through the perseverance he showed in getting me get after the authorities to demurrage free the gully and gutter cleaners sent from the community here to Pakistan for Faisalabad. That being a sample of how things are done, I am confident your efforts to develop ties between the twined cities could grow from strength to strength to the mutual well-being of the two communities. The Faisalabad Manchester Friendship Committee can rest assured that Pakistan High Commission, its consulate here, its officers and myself, all are at your disposal to eliminate red tape whenever it tries to slow down the progress of your good work. I wish you well, and Dr. Patel for initiating the blood donor service and also moving towards establishing the first civilian burns unit in Faisalabad. I also thank Mr. Keith Bradley, Member of the Parliament, for all the assistance that he has extended to the Friendship Committee. Mr. Munaver Rasul, when you last mentioned to me about the blood donor service, I had assured you of all help. I reiterate my offer, and the areas like PIA, protocol in Pakistan, and easier passage through red tape to facilitate your Friendship Association's efforts would not be any problems. PIA has always played a leading role in the social work. They have helped tremendously in the Shaukat Khana Memorial Hospital. The government of Pakistan is committed to taking Medicare to doorsteps, and you can rest assured that your mission would not face any difficulties through red tape or there would be any protocol problem. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Munaver Rasul mentioned of AIDS is spreading through blood transfusion services because of the diseased blood from professional donors. I am optimistic that once services that are being planned to be commissioned by Faisalabad Manchester Friendship Committee get going, dreaded disease like AIDS and hepatitis B would be addressed to effectively. While Pakistan is lucky in not having the incidence of AIDS to a point which cannot be described as alarming, it does not leave room for complacency. It demands from us a response that would go a long way in nipping the disease in the bud. Prevention is always better than cure. AIDS as an incurable disease is a curse of God on those who defy laws of nature and pervert them to their fleeting pleasures. That the AIDS now I mentioned to you about is equally devastating, and Pakistan, being a third world country, has been suffering too much from its afflictions. That is why Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto has declared her government's target as trade and not aid as the major thrust. Since Manchester is the largest concentration of Pakistani business community outside Pakistan, I appeal to you to come forward and invest in Pakistan. Your government there will come more than halfway to help you in setting up industries and providing you opportunities to invest in Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, but the primary question is, why do countries like Pakistan have to depend so much on aid, foreign aid? The answer is not difficult to find. We have committed our own resources for the defense needs of the country. We have been subject to 3 wars from a neighbor 6 times bigger than our size, and the core issue of Kashmir remains unresolved to this day. Pakistan's father, Qaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, in his very first speech after partition became a reality, called upon Indian leadership to bury the hatchet, offered joint defense of the region so that we could devote all our resources for the alleviation of the sufferings of the two masses. No heed was paid to his appeal. Kashmir, which is part of unfinished agenda of the partition, continues to be a festering wound, causing untold miseries to the people with repercussions outside. Pakistan is willing to negotiate a settlement so that both India and Pakistan have enormous billions from wasting on defense for the mutual benefit of the toiling masses of the subcontinent who gave blood and sacrificed everything for the creation of their two countries. Kashmir cannot be denied its disputed status. President Clinton acknowledged it recently when Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto visited the United States. American Ambassador to India, Mr. Wajid, in a press statement after visiting what is being described as the valley of death now, said the situation in Kashmir is reaching a point of decision. The intriguing manner the currently continuing tragic hostage drama has been stage managed is at best described by Glasgow Herald's defense correspondent Ian Bruce as dirty tricks operation by the undercover agents of the Indian government to discredit the genuine struggle of the Kashmiri people and the groups seeking implementation of the United Nations resolutions. Glasgow Herald has quoted military sources here, having this view on the basis of the information. Our friends in Delhi seem to be in a tight corner. They must surrender to the writing on the wall and get down to fulfilling the commitment made to the world by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, India's first Prime Minister, guaranteeing the right of plebiscite to the people of Kashmir. Ladies and gentlemen, that no doubt being a digression, but it is a matter of concern for all the communities here. I leave it at that with the hope that the festering Kashmiri issue would be resolved to the satisfaction of the wishes of Kashmiri people so that both India and Pakistan get down to enjoying real fruits of freedom in the shape of economic prosperity for their people, so far denied even decent morsels because of unlimited drain of defense expenditure. I once again thank Mr. Munaver Rasul and the Faisalabad and Manchester Friendship Committee for inviting me over here. And I, as Pakistan High Commissioner, again assure you that we will leave no stone unturned to help you in promoting the mission that you have taken upon yourself. In whatever manner you will suggest to us, don't worry about red tape, don't worry about. And remember, when I came here last,
I do very well.
And I promised you that your gully cleaners will be released. And I am so happy that we got that thing done. I had also told you, the business community here, that we will soon have a trade center. I'm happy to tell you that we have a trade center. We have established a trade center, Pakistan Trade Center in London. And inshallah, we'll also have a trade office here, which will be available to the Pakistani business community, nay, the entire business community, to promote trade with Pakistan and enjoy mutual benefits. Ladies and gentlemen, I once again apologize for coming late, and I'm grateful for giving me so much time to listen to me before such a nice dinner which is waiting to be enjoyed. Thank you very much.
As far as dinner is concerned, we've got a buffet system, and I would now like to invite the High Commissioner to open the buffet. But before we do that, can I ask people to bear with us a little bit? Because what we like to do is there are two tables there for buffet. The far table, if I ask the ladies from that side to actually go first, one by one table at a time, and have your bring your meal with you. And I'll ask the High Commissioner from this side to open the buffet, please. If you just bear with us, it won't take long.
That has ever taken place in
फिट हो गई अपन कमीशन
what it is about to do in the future, and hopefully you will participate in our activities by becoming members We've got our membership forms, and treasurer, Mr. Afzal Ahmed, Mr. Muhammad Afzal, sorry, has got the membership forms, and I understand he's going down, and if you can spot him, get a membership form of him, so that we can formally recognize you as members and move onward from that point. I would also like to take this opportunity of thanking the Vice Consulate of Pakistan in Manchester, specifically Mr. Andrabi, and also now Dr. Bhaji, who has been participating in our activities. And specifically, Your Excellency, I'd like to thank you for taking this time. The 5 hours you actually spent on the motorway hopefully been worth by now. In the end, I'd like to thank every one of you for coming here tonight. And please have your tea or coffee after your meal, and a safe journey home. Thank you very much.
This is the man we should have been approaching, rather than trying to knock on your MP's door. Seems to be knocking on his
I'm trying to do it twice on my own, and I don't have to go through it. We've been accused by the other side of taking sides. You must have got it right.